All right, everybody. Good evening and welcome to the Lincoln County Courthouse. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this meeting of Lincoln County Planning Commission will begin with a few remarks. This meeting is being streamed live, and when adjourned and posted, it will be available at any time at lincolncountysd.gov. The order of events will be as follows. For each public hearing, staff will introduce an agenda item and present a summary of the staff findings. The applicant will then be asked to explain their proposal in further detail and to answer any questions from the County Planning Commission. I will then open the floor to public comment, first for persons in support of the application, and then for persons in opposition of the application. When you step up to the podium, please state your name, address, and speak clearly into the microphone. Please limit your comments to less than 5 minutes. Lastly, decisions on change of zones will be scheduled for additional public hearing during an upcoming Board of Commissioners meeting. The decisions on conditional use permit applications may be appealed to the Board of Commissioners by submitting a letter to the County Planning Office within 5 days. Thanks for your cooperation. All right, I see we have a quorum present, so we are good to go there. We will now approve the meeting minutes. Are there any corrections, Mr. Brown?
No correction.
All right, with that, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes. Scott?
Second, Boots.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? That will pass. All right, next we will move for the meeting agenda. Are there any changes, Mr. Brown?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
All right, commissioners, no changes? With that, I'll ask for a motion.
Move to approve Sweeter.
Second, Moser.
We got a motion and a second. There we go. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? All right, that passes. All right, now we have our, oh, yep, no, my favorite part. Public input on non-agenda items. So anything that's not on the agenda, anybody like to come up and speak and talk to us about, please do. All right, seeing none. Now we can move on to our first order of business. Ordinances on building eligibility transfers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Toby Brown, representing County Planning and Zoning Department. This first item is a consideration of a public hearing. So as you're aware, the Planning Commission did request the Board of Commissioners to remand an ordinance regarding text amendment regarding building eligibility transfers. The Board of Commissioners did remand both ordinances that you sent up to them. So staff did publish a notice in the legal newspapers of the county, did advertise that there would be a public hearing this evening for consideration, for the Planning Commission to consider a recommendation of adoption to the Board of Commissioners. So after staff presentation and public input, the recommended action would be is that you would recommend adoption of one of the ordinances up to the Board of Commissioners, who will subsequently then conduct a public, or schedule a public hearing, conduct that public hearing, and decide to adopt or not adopt the recommended version of it. So really briefly, did put a clean version, a track changes version on the agenda page. So the first option, number one, would be to strike the word same ownership from a transfer of building eligibility, and then also strike some suitability characteristics, and then require that it be suitable under the standard requirements of the zoning ordinance. Strike out the language that minimum lot size shall be 1 acre, period. There would be no ability to increase that by the Planning Commission. And then the sixth thing would be to add the right to farm covenant. And again, the right to farm covenant is a requirement of a single-family dwelling construction in the county. It would just be codifying that, putting it in so that the public knows that when they're doing billing eligibility transfer, that they will be required to do that at a later date. So that's option number one. Really simple change, and again, this was brought forward because staff's identified through a number of individuals that we've worked with that the same ownership is somewhat of a bureaucracy or red tape type requirement. And nothing else changes. It would still require a public hearing, a conditional use permit. Neighbors would be notified of that. It just wouldn't be the paper requirement that it be transferred to the same contiguous owner or same owner. But the contiguous would stay with that version, with this version. Option number two, same exact things that I went through, but instead of allowing contiguous or requiring contiguous transfers, that's parcel to parcel that are adjoining, this would allow transfer within the same township. So they would be allowed to be anywhere or transfer as long as they're within the same township, would not have to be contiguous. And that's really the only change between those two different sections. And again, both option one and option number two are amending the A1 agricultural zoning district and also the RC recreation conservation district. Those are the only two or zoning districts other than rural residential, which does not require building eligibility. Those are the only two zoning districts that do require a building eligibility to construct a single family dwelling. So those are the two options. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you. Gladly answer any questions the board has for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, Commissioners, we've been working on this for a number of months, and we're to this point. So any questions for Mr. Brown? Any new thoughts or questions to go through?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So now we will ask for public input on people in favor of the zoning ordinance as it is written. All right, seeing none, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the ordinance.
Hi, before I start, is there anybody on a planning zoning board, township board, a landowner, or somebody else on the board that owns housing eligibilities that are going to vote on this discussion?
Could you state your name?
Anthony James Ventura, 47763 292nd Street, Hudson, South Dakota, 57034.
Thank you, sir.
So no response?
We're at public comment right now, so you come to us, but thank you.
Okay, so that would be a concern of mine. Anybody on this board that has any of these particulates would be, I'd like to have it on the record clearly for people in the future. I am opposed to these. I think we're on the right path, but I think these changes should be anywhere in the county. I think landowners should be able to do what they want. It's a property rights discussion, nothing else. And sometimes I think planning and zoning just gets too deep into things and needs to let the landowners decide what they want to do with their own property. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else in opposition? Yes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Sarah Stever, 46850 276th Street in Lenox. I do also like the direction of the being able to transfer within the township, but I would also advocate for anywhere within the county, partially because I do think that gives an option for some people who want to bring their kids back home to the farm to actually sell housing eligibilities in order to start out as farmers. So it could be a way for them to raise capital, possibly to build a feedlot, or whatever they think is appropriate. But I think that should be in consideration for that reason. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Sarah, what was the first part of that? I didn't hear what you said.
The first part would be, I guess I like version number 2, between the two of them.
Number 2, okay.
But I would even stretch it out further, just to include the entire county instead of a township. I don't think that, I know the township, the school losing funding is part of the issue for keeping it within the township. I don't know that those eligibilities would ever be used anyway if we can't figure out a way to bring kids back to the farm. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Bethany Eric, 46747 291st Street. I don't own any building eligibilities. I have no bone in the fight, except for the fact that I still like the idea of a building eligibility owner being able to exempt themselves from something coming in adjacent to them that is, that makes the building eligibility no longer useful. So if I had to pick between 1 and 2, I would pick 2 because it gives them the ability to move away from a poet or a fertilizer plant or whatever else comes in. It gives them a little bit more latitude to get away from something that is undesirable. But I would also like to see it opened up to the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rodney Miles, 27530 470th Avenue. I guess I'd say I'm in opposition of number 1 strictly because it just limits certain people to be able to do what they want to do with their eligibilities if they're in a less desirable, say, water problem area or something, where option number 2 just creates opportunities for everybody to where everybody within the township all gets the same exact opportunities to do what they want or not do what they, choose with their own eligibilities. And then, the townships gain, the county possibly gains from increased tax revenue for eligibilities that aren't being used. And then the schools don't lose anything if, the, eligibility is moved and the land is still taxed as ag ground and stuff. So I would choose option 2 over option 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Enabo, 47788 289th Street. I'm sorry, I just want some clarity on the word contiguous. Does a township roads separate that and make it non-contiguous? Or if an owner is on one side of the road, has property both sides, is that together?
We'll do some discussion here and we'll get some of
Okay.
the answers out there for that.
All right.
Thank you.
Linda Montgomery, Fairview, South Dakota. I guess I'm not used to you guys not answering us back at public comment. I always thought that was a thing, except for where we're just doing public comment. But my thing is, someone brought up the idea for you as a board, if there is a conflict of interest, I hope that you recuse yourself from this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Sorry, I was writing down that, so thank you. All right, anybody else like to comment on this building eligibility? All right, seeing none, we'll close the floor to public input, and I'll ask a motion from the commission so we can have a discussion. And to clarify, I think, should we have that discussion first to determine, we talk through A and B, or 1 and 2, and then make a motion that way, or, but again, anyone can make a motion at any time.
Mr. Chair, can we get that answer on that contiguous?
Yes, Mr. Brown, could you help with that?
Yes, so per the zoning ordinance, right-of-way doesn't count towards, it allows contiguous to go across the right-of-way.
Okay.
So we do allow it to transfer across right-of-way. as long as it's the same owner on the other side, so.
So across the gravel road or
Yep.
whatnot would count.
Yeah, as long as there's touching corners to it, yes, it's allowable. Yep.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Chair, to get the ball rolling,
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve option number 2.
Second, Moser.
All right, let's have a discussion on option number 2.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Boots.
I guess that's kind of the one that it seems to be that we kind of been leaning towards, and myself, I have a hard time going throughout the whole county. You know, and maybe it's something that could never happen, but seeing everything go from the south to the north, and maybe it wouldn't happen, and maybe I'm just projecting into what could happen, and it could, because you could end up with a mess as you've got Harrisburg, and Lennox all kind of growing into these areas, and all of a sudden you may end up with a cluster of houses, and then you end up with these spots again out in the county that are surrounded by a city. And again, we're looking at getting something to the commissioners, because they're the elected officials, to make the ultimate determination on this.
Yeah, I agree. We are just a recommendation board. So where we go, they can accept, change, modify when it does get to the Board of Commissioners. My thoughts, unless anybody else wants a turn. So I've been working on this quite a bit. I've been talking to realtors. I've been talking to people that have eligibilities down south, up north. People with no eligibilities, people that just live in T and live in a neighborhood. And I honestly have to say, it's been 50-50 everywhere. Some people say, yeah, that makes sense, just move them wherever. It kind of helps the commodity. As it was said earlier, it really could help a person if they need some financial income. It could help bring someone back home. And also, I've heard from other people that are concerned about the influx of moving housing eligibilities to one corner, or a developer grabbing a whole bunch of them and creating a market, and like I said, a whole group of houses, which when a city then overtakes, gets to be really expensive for the homeowner and for the city. So I just want to share that. I've been working on this for quite a bit here, and I honestly have to say it's been about 50-50 from everyone I've talked to. Well, if there's no more discussion, then we'll take roll, or we're still thinking a little bit? We're not in a hurry. We can take time to discuss as long as we want.
I'm just trying to decide what I'm gonna do. It's apparent that the public has made some comments directed towards me that they would prefer that I abstain, and so I think that's probably the way that I'm leaning, that I'll abstain from the vote and my comments.
And I'd have to abstain as well.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at, Chair.
Well, if we're doing that, I'm abstaining too, because I have housing eligibilities. So now we don't have a quorum.
So. I guess it stays how it is.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I understand the concerns of the public about conflicts of interest for housing eligibilities and everything else. My days in the legislature, you would run into potential conflicts over an issue every day. But you still have to work through them. You can't abstain from every vote and walk away from it because you may have some kind of possible interest or not. I mean, countywide, you're gonna have a bunch of those also, so just take that into consideration. If we need advice, we can most certainly get some.
how does it affect people in a township if all the eligibilities go away and you're left not close to any other towns and there's very few people? Does it identify somewhere where we can educate ourselves how it will affect us tax-wise? Is there a place where we can research and learn about, like, how will that affect, like, the decisions you guys make, how will that affect taxes?
So the question was asked, and just because it's a big topic, we shouldn't take that comment, but we all want to know. So I think the way it affects, and anyone jump in if you feel different, land with housing eligibilities are worth a little bit more. So one of the concerns were if they leave a township would lose some revenue paying taxes on a regular ag land as opposed to housing eligibility land. So that's been a concern about taxes and what can go to a township, a school too, I suppose, potentially, depending where they move to.
Mr. Chair, so.
Yes.
Is there a difference then? I mean, does that actually bear out where you can look at, okay, here's this ground has building eligibilities and this ground doesn't, no one's built a house.
No.
But is there actually a difference or are they both assessed the same?
I've never.
You want to get in trouble?
You get in trouble.
So this as much as I'll say, because I'm not in my department with the tax part of it, but agricultural land is taxed at productivity level. So it doesn't matter how many eligibilities you have, it's just your productivity level. It's when you build a house on it, then it gets taxed at market rate. So the question is, how does it impact the townships? It impacts the township if we take away the tax base, if they're never able to develop with a house on it, is really the question.
But they're not getting that revenue anyway, because there's no house that exists. If they haven't built on it, then they don't get taxed for the house. So what are they losing?
Today, it's the future they would lose.
But I mean, there's a lot of eligibility. I mean, not everyone's gonna build a house on their eligibility, They're not all gonna get used, right?
Right.
They're not getting used today.
They're not.
Mr. Brown, for the
But
sake of the
ag land
conversation.
is ag land. If you plat something off and don't build on it, you're gonna pay the amount as it being an eligibility. I mean, eligibilities aren't taxed until they become buildable, a buildable piece of land. A plat is platted and you've got it, then where you want to build a house. That's when they're taxed as an eligibility. Before that time, they are not. They're taxed as ag land.
That answers my question.
And Mr. Brown, for the sake of people to be able to do their own research, are you able to be on the computer there?
Yeah.
Can you go to the GIS site? And I would encourage everybody to just cruise around and do this. I don't care, you can go to pick a parcel, whatever one you want. There you go. And then go to the Beacon parcel info. We aren't sure you're a human, but. And then go to that tax tools up top and go to tax distribution. So I would encourage people to do this because this will show you, and I guess to answer your question, Dion, this will show you like the difference of what a bare piece of farm ground, what's generated in taxes and then how it's, where it's distributed to versus something that has a house on it. So that breaks it down by the township, the county, the school district and so forth. So that's where you can people can figure it out.
Good conversation.
I also ask a question.
We did this last time.
What happens after, what's the process for actually getting a housing eligible? Let's say we decide, yes, move it anywhere in the county.
what would be the process afterwards that would actually ensure that we don't end up with a cluster of houses? There's still more process that happens. Anyway, you don't get to just automatically put it where just because you found a parcel and somebody agreed to sell it to you, and now you have a housing eligibility. There's still other planning and zoning things you go through, right?
Well, if you do have a housing eligibility, the question is asked, how was the process of if you have a housing eligibility and you move it somewhere else, what's that process? Well, in here, we do have it stated it has to be an acre of land. We do have in our ordinances, it can't be more than 4 or 5 houses next to each other, because then it goes into a whole different structure that way.
Subdivision.
Some townships also have roads stipulations, driveway stipulations that come into play too as to how, how many houses can be on that road, how many houses can be, some townships, if it's within the townships have certain specifications as to how many driveways can be on that mile, which limits the amount of houses.
Yeah, the townships do have a lot of control on that too. If you want 5 next to each other, they're gonna say, no, you're not getting 5 driveways, so that's on the township's hands for controlling their road and their access. All right, we have a motion and a second on option number 2, which we can change any word we want, or we can vote to send this to Board of Commissioners for their review and change, modification, whatever they would like to do. And they could put some stipulations on it, send it back to us, and we work a little bit more on it.
My question is, who's gonna vote?
You know,
2 or 5?
yeah, I honestly feel okay voting. I don't see there's any conflict of interest for me. I have no intention ever moving my one eligibility, and this will not affect me one bit.
And I guess there's been a lot of work put into this. I would really hate to see it end tonight over not having a quorum to be able to vote on it, because again, we're just voting a recommendation and move it up, because
Yep.
I highly doubt they probably don't want to, the commissioners probably don't want to hear from us, yeah, we're not sending the recommendation back, so. My thoughts.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I don't know, I guess I'm wondering, since there really doesn't seem to be any interest in option 1, would it make more sense to have a vote between either keeping it within the township or expanding it to the county? That seems to be where the interest is. But we don't have to, if you don't want to make a decision on it, if people want to abstain for now, I guess that's everyone's prerogative, but however you guys want to do it.
No, I understand. So we have a motion on the way it's written right now, but if you'd like to put an alternate forward to go county instead of township, you sure can.
Yeah, would I have to make a motion then, I guess, or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'd make a motion as an alternate, and then we would vote on whether we change the wording in here, and then we'd vote on it again with the change or non-change.
okay.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess, make a motion to have it be expanded to, the county, and have that be an option in addition to, option 2. So,
Vote on, we have a motion
Okay.
on the floor.
We have an alternate to go countywide rather than township.
A second.
Okay.
It's not really an alternate, strike it, you're.
well, I guess
You're
maybe,
just striking
maybe
county.
strike out, maybe do,
You're
replace option 1
striking
maybe.
township or county, and you're gonna. then you
If
gotta
that makes more sense.
Okay.
vote on
But we
if
do
you
have a
wanna- if
motion
you
on the
wanna do
floor,
that.
a motion and a second on the floor.
True.
So that would have
You
to
can
be
offer
an
a-
amendment.
It's a substitute motion, and then you take that motion up first.
Right, and I
If it
believe that's
fails,
what,
then you go back to the original first motion.
right, I believe that's what has to do as an alternate
That's what he's
motion.
doing, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Can I just jump in quick?
Please do, Mr. Brown.
So handle it that way, but. The option, the preferred way to do it would be is go with option one and just take off contiguous as well. So
Whatever you wanna
we
say.
had a first draft a few months ago that we drafted it that way. So we just take off contiguous off option number one, if you want to allow it countywide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that sound fair? Okay.
Sure.
So with that, then we do,
No.
nope, we still have a
No, just
motion on the
replace
floor
it.
for option two, so we would have to vote on that. If that fails, then there's an alternate, or then we can ask for other motions after that, which would be for option one.
Yeah, sorry for fumbling this, guys.
No, we're, this is why we vote, and this is why we have a good communication, this is why we talk.
But, yeah, maybe to reiterate, I guess I would make a motion then to, update option one and get rid of the word contiguous, which would open it up to the countywide.
Okay,
Well,
so
first
with
we gotta-
us having a motion on the floor already, we gotta vote on
Sure.
option two.
Got it.
But then if that doesn't go through, then we can make that motion for option one with the wording that you're suggesting.
Okay.
That can always be changed at the commissioner level too.
Could be. Could be. All right, with that, everybody know what they're gonna do?
Yep.
I will do roll call, and this is on option two to pass it as written.
With the word contiguous.
We're gonna,
Option two.
well, we're gonna go on option two as is written. And option two is get rid of continuous and has to stay within the township. All right, Commissioner Mosier,
No.
I don't really have a blank for this, so I'm making it up, Toby. Commissioner Sweeter.
Which one of us are you looking at?
What's that?
Which one of us are you looking at for a vote?
Yeah, no, right, did I mishear?
Oh, I'm sorry, were you,
Yes.
oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I
Commissioner
was
Sweeter.
waiting for you to say something.
Oh, yeah,
I
I was
didn't hear you. I was like, okay, what is it?
No, I thought you were just thinking really hard, so I didn't want to
I
interrupt any
am
thoughts.
thinking hard, but no.
Your vote's no?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Boots,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Abstain.
Well, Commissioner Jung and it comes down to me, then I was going to say yes, so we have a 2-2 vote. So then, for 2-2, that does not pass, correct?
Gotta use your tiebreaker.
That's right.
The bylaws allow the commissioner to vote if it's necessary for.
That's right, and our commissioner is the tiebreaker, sorry.
This is for option two.
Yes.
Leave it contiguous, but not in the
continuous and has to stay within the township.
In the township,
Yep.
Not contiguous.
not contiguous. That's the motion that they're voting on.
Yeah, countywide would be next.
Yes.
All right, that does pass. And so again, we're merely recommending option 2 and go to the Board of Commissioners. And then they can change the wording as they wish, send it back to us to do some more work, take more public input. We'll see when they take that up. All right, next is our working session, correct?
So, and I apologize, the first one was an actual public hearing, so we did the for and against and that. But this next one, we return to normal where we can take public input and have dialogue with the public, so. So this is the ordinance amending the text amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow non-accessory solar energy systems. Again, we've gone through this amendment quite a few times. The last change, and again, additions are in blue, strike-throughs in red are removals from the ordinance. Since the last meeting, though, we added that all outdoor lighting shall be shielded. We added the setback up here. So the minimum setback would be 750, and then for acres exceeding 50 acres in size, an additional 15 feet per acre shall be added to the setback. Did add, though, that they would be allowed to do a waiver on those setbacks for that requirement. And then this ordinance added this section that we've talked about previously, that for notification of a conditional use permit, there would be a 3-mile buffer area to surrounding properties that they would be notified of the conditional use permit public hearing. I think those were the main changes that we had since the last meeting on that. But with, again, to summarize, is that this proposed ordinance would add a land use of non-accessory solar energy systems to the zoning regulations. It would be a conditional use permit. I do apologize, there was one other addition to that, is we did, so previously it was just allowed in the A1 agricultural zoning district and the RC recreation conservation zoning district. This ordinance amendment also adds it to the commercial and the I2 zoning districts. Why is it not added to the I1? The I1 allows any commercial land use within the commercial zoning district as a conditional use in the I1 too, so we didn't add it to that section for it. But those are the proposed changes with the current draft. Again, this will allow public comment on it. This is a work session, but would like a motion if you feel that this ordinance is to send it up to the Board of Commissioners for them to remand it back to us so that we can do a formal public hearing, just how we did with the previous item on the agenda. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair, and answer any questions that the board has for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Board, any questions for staff?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so this is different than that last one. This is not a public hearing, so we're just talking. Anybody ideas? I know last working session, we added a number of the things in that was requested. And so is there any other thoughts on this as written? Yes, sir, come on up.
Dwayne Carlson, 29287 467th Avenue. Has any thought been put into the environmental aspect of this are they going to have stored battery systems on this site? I see it's, non-accessory. What exactly does non-accessory mean? Does that mean that we don't have battery systems for backups on this, or for the storage of what they're bringing for energy? And
Yeah, I'll ask Mr. Brown, but I believe if there was going to be batteries there, they bring that forward, and then we would vote on that conditional use permit as, depending on what kind of facility they bring forward to us.
right, so you've got a stored energy of some sort, and it's not going to go directly into the grid. I mean, that's we don't know because it says non-accessory, it really doesn't say.
Right. And it can go directly into the grid. It can take from the transformer, go right into the grid,
So,
depending on whatever they want to build.
right.
I think there is something in here towards the end, which was originally, is that they have to do a study about what it would take to remove everything when this end of life. And then they have to do a bond and they have to do that for when it's end of life or when they decide to move on from the site.
Thank you.
Do you have anything to add, Mr. Brown? Okay. All right, any other thoughts, comment, commissioners?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I guess with the question on the non-accessory part, I think, well, the reason this is like, you're building like a purpose-built solar, like it's not just like a solar panel on your house. It's like, no, this is going to the grid. That's the purpose of it. So that's why it says non-accessory, right? Yeah.
One thought I had for the group, I didn't read in there where we have a setback of 750 feet, which is great, but I didn't read in there specifically, like the one instance we had, I think it was like a 40-acre site, and they were going to use 30 acres. So is that 750 back come from the solar panels themselves or from the property line? I know we've had that comment a number of times on a number of different things, so I think maybe we should clear that up in here. You know, then if they would add on to it later, that setback goes with whatever they add on, then they can't add on if they don't meet that, you know what I mean? In that example, if they don't fill that last 10, if they fill that last 10 acres, if they don't meet the setback, they can't fill it up. And any thoughts? Anybody?
Bethany Eric, 46747 291st Street. Thank you for accepting a lot of the recommendations that we had, and I concur with you, Jerry. We've got to make sure that they're going to stay within their setbacks at that distance. I'm so grateful that it's going to be a little further back. So I agree with your thought there. And furthermore, I would also suggest that we put a clause in there that they verify with emergency management services that whatever electrical high-volume stuff that they're doing, that it meets or exceeds safety protocols for our county emergency management services. Just a thought, because we don't want a fire, a big fire, and then some of those batteries blow up. So just a thought. Thank you. But Jerry, yes, I agree. Keeping it in that setback and defining that setback would be a good idea.
Okay. Think for a way to rewrite that, but I think Toby and Team the Wordsmith is probably going to beat me on that one for sure.
And that emergency management might not be a bad idea too, if this, I think we're looking at a non-accessory as going right to the grid, because as Sarah brought forward some stuff that with the batteries and stuff there, what can go sideways again if the worst would happen, to make sure that our emergency services can take care of it.
So, this would require a conditional use permit, and we would put conditions on there. At that time, we would visit with each emergency management responsible one, what fire department would be, what would that be, and ask them what they would want, training or, additional funds or those different types of things. I think it's hard with as many we have countywide to really come up with a one-size-fits-all with those. So we typically would handle those with the conditional use permit.
Okay, just as long as we can handle it one way or the other.
Yeah, yep. And then the way that I read it is, it's the operational area, including the fencing and array, which is what we worked with the previous applicant as well. So the dwelling setback was from the outside of the operational area, so the outside fence.
Okay, so you feel comfortable that
Yep.
we're good that way? Okay.
Yep.
All right, so far, we don't really have many changes. We're happy the way we've put this together and any other thoughts, anybody? Quiet's good. Quiet's a good thing. All right, so with this then, Toby, our step is to just bring this to the Board of Commissioners, so this is a work study, this is what we worked on. What would you guys like to do from there? Then they'll remand it back to us. Then we'll take a public hearing, just like what we did tonight with the housing eligibilities, and bring it back to the Board of Commissioners. It'll be a few more months up, back and forth.
We just need a vote to recommend that to the board.
Okay.
I'll make that motion, recommend this to the Board of Commissioners.
We get a second on that one?
Second, Moser.
All right, any further discussion, team?
No, Mr. Chair, other than I think we've had a lot of input and we've put what the group has thought is the best and a lot of what the people have brought forward into it. So I think we've got a good working document that the commissioners can take a look at, and if they think it looks good, then it comes back down here, so.
I agree. It puts some precautions in there to protect the existing neighbors, but also allows, if they find the right spot, for them to build whatever business plan they want to build is. So, all right, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Mosier,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeter,
Yes.
Commissioner Boots,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
and Commissioner Jungley is also a yes. All right, work session number 2. We are going to discuss CAFOs, which we've not been working on this one as long as solar hour eligibility, so let's have that discussion. Oh, I do have 2 letters that came in. Oh, yeah, you probably should go first, Mr. Brown. Sorry for all the work. Yeah, sorry for all the work.
So this was carryover from last month's meeting that was discussed about different proposed amendments to the CAFO regulations of the county. Again, so staff put track changes version together. And I'll go through that kind of real quickly to kind of explain a little bit about what it is as soon as I pull it up here. Okay, so this is specifically a couple sections. The first one would be amending the A1 agricultural zoning district section. So currently a concentrated class animal feeding operation, Class D, that's a permitted special use, which means if they meet the criteria, there is not a public hearing, but they would be, go through a building permit process. So modify this a little bit, and I think there was kind of consensus at the last meeting that the break would be the 999. 200 animal units is really where the threshold is currently right now, so 199 and below, they do not require any activity by the board or essentially by staff either. But this would be, the break would be 200 animal units to 999 animal units, would be permitted special use. Also within the A1 agricultural zoning district, 1,000 animal units would require a conditional use permit, so 1,000 and above would require a conditional use permit. A little bit different is there was some comment at the last public input session about the regulations as far as how we measure the setbacks. So currently setbacks are measured from the applicable land use to the outermost point of the feedlot. And so there was always some questions about, we should clarify that a little bit more. So there was a comment at the last public input session about the South Dakota's general permit for concentrated animal feeding operations. They have a definition for production area. This is very broad, so I would make sure that everyone reads it and understands it. But it would define what the setback would be from those particular land uses, particularly like a dwelling, to those particular aspects of the feeding operation. And then a little hard to kind of show how it would fit now. I don't think you could look at like it's a Class D and a Class A break, but that's just how we put it together in the chart, just to kind of show what the changes would be. As you recall, last month we talked about that. Really, we talked about what the dwelling setback would be, but there's other setbacks within the regulations from parks, from different types of other land, like the municipalities and those different types of things. So there's a little bit more work that needs to be done as far as what those setbacks should be. But this would just be the break of how the multiplier would work for the animal unit equivalent. And that was about it from that aspect of it. So as Chair said, staff did receive 2 pieces of correspondence prior to this meeting tonight. One of those comes on a complaint form, but in talking with the individual, they really just had it as a question, so I did include it as kind of more of general kind of correspondence. I think it's a great question. It's a great question that I'm sure the public will want to talk about too. The second item is a letter that staff received from South Dakota State University, particularly the individual involved with the SDOFT, South Dakota Order Footprint Tool. I would say that staff did not reach out to that individual. I don't know who did, I guess, but they referenced that it was someone that asked for communication, but that was not anyone from our department that reached out to the state on that requirement. But I assume that the chair will read those into the public comment on it. So those are really just the kind of the changes there to get the ball rolling on it. As you're aware, Lincoln County adopted CAFO regulations in 1995. There was periodic amendments over the years to those, but the general framework for how we treat concentrated animal feeding operations has not changed since 1995. Those are the standard regulations that are still in place today. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you and gladly answer any questions that the board has for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Appreciate the update and refresher. Commissioner, any questions for staff?
Thank you.
Yes. Commissioner Otten.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So where did the 1.32 number, where was that derived from?
Commissioner Scott worked on that.
So
Just the basis of that
just pulled it
number?
out of the air.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
A lot of math.
It seemed
on
like a
that,
good
yeah.
number. No, where it came from, if you go back and watch our presentation when we talked about this, and I can provide you the chart if you need it, but basically in the middle of if you go to our max, Class C and Class B, take max animal units by the minimum standard setback, or the minimum recommended setback, and divide those, it comes out to 1.32 feet. So obviously 1,320 feet divided by 1,000, that's where you get. So that was the starting point. And we've allowed that to be open, but nobody has came up and said that they wanted or suggested anything different. So I guess that's where it is. Yeah, and I'd be happy to give you the chart, but it is in the, whatever month that was, 2 months ago. It's in that presentation if you want to listen to it.
Yeah, definitely. That's the number we started at, and subject to change, but that's our base. I'll read these letters in while everyone does a little thinking. All right, like Mr. Brown said, this was sent in a complaint form, but it's a good question. I'm just trying to read how to start here. It was submitted on June 20th. Description. The below, this is handwritten too, so I'm sorry, I'm trying to make every word the best I can. The below linked feedlot is located in the vicinity of Moe Parish Park / Lands Lutheran Church, a little over a mile across the field. the proposed new setback feet per animal amount unit of 1.32 feet per animal unit could put the location as close as 6,000 to 5,000 beef cattle. Per the planning and zoning last meeting, one of the commissioners stated it can't be this close to a church. Add an exception to the 1.32 feet to churches and parks. Cannot be this close to a church and a church park. Can you add this exception? That talks about Primo Feedlot LLC and other names at this location, 29088 South Dakota Highway 11, Hudson, South Dakota. Phone not known, not published. Email not known, not published. And complaint came from Joyce and Tom Thievedt, THVEDT of 46802 292nd Street, Beersford. Request follow-up letter regarding their question to above address. All right, second letter came from the South Dakota State University Department of Animal Science, dated July 18th. Said to Planning and Zoning Committee from Mr. Bob Thaler, THALER, Extension Swine Specialist and Distinguished Professor. Is regarding status of the SD odor footprint tool. I was asked to provide an update on the SD odor footprint tool, SDOFT, for your upcoming meeting, and the following are points for your consideration. Number one, the facility in Ag and Biosystems Engineering who created and ran the SDOFT for stakeholders are no longer at SDSU. Dr. Nick Nicola, retired, Dr. Aaron Cordis, University of Minnesota, and Dr. something Yang, I apologize, from Michigan State. Number two, as swine extension specialist in the Animal Science Department, I've taken on responsibility for doing SDOFT for people and have been doing them for several years. I'm retiring on October 1st, 2026, but I will train another extension specialist on how to run the program. Point number three, the current SDOFT can be used for beef feedlots, dairy operations, and swine barns. As currently constructed, however, it does not provide estimates for turkeys, barns, laying operations, or boiler operations. Point number four, while other counties continually encouraged to use SDOFT during the approval process, to my knowledge, Lincoln County is the only one in South Dakota that requires it. Point five, Dr. Dick Nicolai, the engineer who developed the SDOFT, often would say that is not a perfect tool. However, it does incorporate the best scientific data available to provide an estimate of the odor impact from a livestock operation. It is a tool that provides a sound basis to start the discussion of a livestock facility. I hope this is useful, and it can be, and if I can provide further assistance, please let me know. I did not know that. We're the only one that uses that in the state. All right. So again, like last time, last ordinance we were talking is a working session, so if anybody has any comments, Commissioner, audience, please come free. Yes.
Hi, Bethany Eric, 46747 291st Street. Just want to remind you, I did ask for higher than 1.32 for the bottom four classes. I thought 1.32 puts 11,100 turkeys from 264 feet from your door. So the bottom four classes are what I'm really concerned about. I am a small farm. I'm here on behalf of small farmers because we are the ones that deal with biosecurity issues if somebody moves in next door. No offense to you, Eric, I know you have worked so hard on this, but on the smaller end of things, they already have a workaround for small farmers to negotiate with their neighbors and get a waiver, and then they can put their barns wherever they would like. So realistically, this whole process is kind of an over thought. And hopefully, you'll see that the bottom four classes, we could raise that from 1.32 to maybe a 2.0 or something, where we're getting the minimums of what we were getting at before changes were suggested, if that makes sense. My biggest concern is for small operators because of the fact that these big entities, say Tyson brings in a bunch of chickens or turkeys. We've got a lot of the different entities that bring in a lot of hogs. They come in small. They might tell us that they're only coming in with 999 animal units, but that's the way. If you read then further what they'll step up to with the conditional use permit the way that it is, they have carte blanche to just go in and expand upon that. So you're not just making the decision for today. They also have that option, and I see you looking quizzically at me, Eric, so I'll address the question. They have the opportunity in the conditional use permit in the book that says 300 animal units, they can continue to expand without further paperwork. And
Where do you find that at?
let's look and see here.
In our current ordinance?
In the current ordinance, yes, it talks about expansion.
So I'll be honest with you, the ones that I've been a part of have had a cap on them.
Okay.
And so.
And maybe that's how we address
they
it,
have-
is that we have a total
they-
cap.
There's a cap, and so then if they want to go over that, they need to start the whole conditional use process over.
Okay.
So I don't think you're accurate on
It's
stating
possible,
that.
I just
Well,
saw.
that I can tell you for a fact, the three that I've been involved in, that's how it's been.
That's how it's worked?
Yeah.
Okay. As long as there's a cap, as long as there's a total cap. And really, like I said,
Well, I can tell you in the past that that isn't how it went. You
Okay.
just got approved for a Class A, and then it was whatever you wanted
then
it
you
to
could just
be.
keep on going.
But the three that I've been involved in, and I think Chairman Youngling, all of them have had a cap on them. So whatever
Okay.
they've requested for animal units, that's what the cap
That's their
has
limit,
been.
that's their threshold, and that's the way this would be structured as well?
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying for me. I appreciate it, because the bottom four classes are the ones that I'm most concerned about at that 1.32 threshold. So please, know that I'm not saying bad for the whole thing, and just like those bottom four classes open up the door to an opportunity for somebody that was nefarious to come in and say, oh, I'm not really doing anything, I'm really just gonna be small, and then all of a sudden they're huge, because there's LLCs upon LLCs upon LLCs. So on that point, I would also like to say that there's nothing in this current draft that indicates that we're going to prevent stacking of LLCs. A lot of counties here in South Dakota are using something called, where they're preventing stacking by saying 2 or more CAFOs are a single CAFO if they are using shared resources, meaning water, manure handling, feed services. If they've got one silage pile between 3 CAFOs, it's to prevent stacking so that they can't do exactly what I'm concerned about them doing. I believe Clay County has it, multiple different entities. So if we could include verbiage that would indicate to prevent them from stacking, that'd be great. Third thing, biosecurity. Again, if I have a flock of turkeys on the back side of my farm, and it's not near my house because I don't want my house to smell like turkeys, but somebody else, Tyson, comes in, buys the property next to me, they're not concerned about my barn like I am. You're changing the rules on biosecurity. So let's say a small young farmer buys a flock of turkeys, and all of a sudden Tyson moves in next door and makes their turkeys sick, or vice versa. We have a landowner rights issue that is created by reducing the setbacks on those lower sizes. So keep the setbacks at the lower sizes so that the small operators are protected biosecurity-wise, and health and human services too. I mean, I don't really care to have 11,100 turkeys come in at 264 feet from my door. So biosecurity is a big one. they also have the opportunity right now, as the ordinance stands, to negotiate with their neighbors for a waiver. They can come to any neighbor in Lincoln County and say, hey, I'd like to put up a barn. And if they're a good working relationship and they're a good farm owner, guess what? Their neighbors are gonna say yes. They're probably gonna say yes, and they're gonna negotiate a fair price for it, for that opportunity to have a waiver that runs with the land. But we already have a process in place. I don't see why we need to change the lower end of things. And then the final statement I have is parcel line versus dwelling. When I go to a bank and I buy my property, they're not saying how much is your house. They're saying how much is your land. Inch by inch, all the way, property line to property line. If I go into the auditor's office and say, you know what? I don't feel like paying taxes on my whole parcel because they're not protecting my whole parcel. This commission or the county commission isn't protecting it. Parcel line is the rule. Parcel line should be the rule. I bought the whole property, I pay the taxes on the whole property, I want to be able to use my whole property without infringement. So parcel line, it is the only thing that I would accept as right, the right thing to do by landowners. Those are kind of my points. So just, I'm hoping that we protect those smaller farmers by making sure that those smaller limits, the 1.32, is modified at the lower end of the scale, and that we keep our biosecurity, we keep our distances from each other. Good fences make good neighbors. So that's what I have. I hope that helps. Thank you.
So on your protecting the lower ones, as you mentioned, what would you said you'd leave that at 1.32?
No, I would not want to leave that at 1.32. Where we are looking at, according to Eric Scott's, and I don't know if the overhead is on to be able to show this. I don't see it. The animal units on Eric Scott's setbacks indicate from 999 on down. Where's the overhead located? Just set it right here. Over that way? There we go.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we are looking right here. This was the proposed 1.32, 1.32. So at 999, we're at 1320. And up above, you can see that 1320 was there at 999. So if we keep the minimum 4 categories, 999, 750, and 499 at 1320, I would be ecstatic, because that would just be a quarter mile. That gives us a little more distance from our homes and barns, from parcel line. And it gets us back to where we were on those bottom 4 classes. So you can see 1320, 1320, 1320, 1320. From 999 down. I hope that's a reasonable ask. I think it is, because that's what we had for those lower numbers. And it does give us the herd security, flock security, and health security of a quarter mile from any residence or property line. So.
Oh, thanks for showing me. I didn't quite.
Didn't quite put it to
Right,
2 and 2
that helped.
together. I'm glad I can help it out and be able to show you, because, yeah, once we get down below 1320, we're down at 264 feet for and at the animal units that they're indicating, turkeys are 0.018. That's how I came up with 0.018 times the animal units, 11,100 turkeys. Puts that many turkeys 264 feet at 1.32 from your door. So see where I get concerned? And hogs are rated between, swine is 0.4 up to, let's see here, swine 0.1 for less than 55 pounds. So you're gonna put a lot of hogs really close to people's homes. You could, swine less than 55 pounds on the animal unit chart, that is indicated right here. Swine less than 55 pounds is 0.1. So 0.1 times 5,000 would put us that we have a lot of we have 5,000 hogs sitting somewhere pretty close to our house. So make sure you're running the math. And I know, Eric, we talked about this too, that it's maybe not quite as many, it might be 3,000, 4,000 hogs, but being close to our house, less than 1320 might be really rough for anybody in the county to accept. So that's why I'd like to keep the minimums on those bottom 4 classes at 1320.
So let me just point that out, though.
Sure.
that If the minimum goes to 1320, nobody's gonna apply for a 200 animal unit. They're gonna go to the max. So then you're forcing people into larger situations, because if you're gonna meet the 1320 anyway, you just as well max it out at 999.
Well, if
Is what would happen.
you think that would be true?
That's what happens right now. Nobody in the current classes, Toby, how many times have you had somebody come in and apply for a class and want to be on the bottom side of it?
Not many, but there's a few that do.
But mostly it's the top side of the class.
The Class D is not a conditional use permit. Oftentimes, people come in and lock in the Class D to save the setback.
Okay.
Yeah,
Not
we
for a
can
new-
sure, we
not
can
for a
sure
new
do that, but I'm
operation.
just telling you what the flip side to that is you can basically eliminate the bottom side of that, and everybody's gonna go to 999. And then take that times your turkey numbers. And that's what you got. And to your point, you asked, why do we need to change? We don't. We just
Right.
leave it how it is.
Yeah,
We leave everything the same.
yeah.
And we can have this, and to your point, the chart that you're showing was the whole reason it was brought up, because
Okay.
there's an inconsistency
I see.
in the feet per animal unit. And what you're telling the small producer, the person that wants to feed 200 head of cattle, is that they should have a setback of 6.6 feet per head, and somebody that wants to have 10,000 in our current ordinance only has to have 0.4. So we're holding the smaller producer to a different standard.
Yeah.
And so the thought is that we go,
And
we
make it
start the
across.
process, and it's just even and fair across the whole board.
Yeah.
I
can
But
see
now,
that.
if we want to continue to, if we want to, I guess I'm confused why we would continue to, be more restrictive on the small producers than we would the large.
I'm just setting it at a quarter mile,
But that would make the smaller producers more restricted.
but they can work around it with a waiver if they're good neighbors.
But you're going to force them to do it, but not anybody else.
Oh, the big guys are gotta work a waiver anyway. And like
necessarily.
you.
Anyway, I'm just
No.
bringing up the point on why it was that way, and we don't have to do a thing. We
I
can just leave it-
appreciate
We can just
the-
leave it how it is.
I appreciate the dialogue on it. I just want the protections on the lower end a little bit because that's what we had and we're getting it taken away. And maybe it's the bottom 2 classes that get protected. Maybe it's, I fully respect all of our young and small farmers, but I really think we're messing with some biosecurity issues here too that are gonna leave us where we've got herds that are getting sick and flocks that are getting sick because they're too close. But,
Do you know how many poultry CAFOs we have in Lincoln County?
probably more if we open this up and offer more.
Zero.
0. Well, Beersford, right? Beersford has turkey.
I think that's an egg deal or
Isn't it?
something, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and they even
So-
had a restriction on how close they could be to town. And they were on,
They obviously must not be much because they aren't a mile or 2 miles away from the
Well,
municipality, so.
furthermore, they were on a water system. So their water isn't going onto my farm. Their water isn't draining out and into my farm. That water is going into municipal water being cleaned and treated. Where a neighbor next door coming in less than 500 feet or less than 900 feet from my house is gonna be dumping water out, into the aquifer that I drink my well water from. So distance is good. Distance is good. And I want to make sure that it's fair to the younger and smaller farms. I don't see the future where we're going to have a lot of small farmers. I think the big guys are going to come in and regardless, and this offers an opportunity where we're going to have some real landowner conflicts. But I respect you for the dialogue. I thank you for the dialogue on it because we can't ignore it completely, but I'm grateful that you addressed my concerns, because
Thank you.
I will stay open to communication about the whole thing. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Did that, any more thoughts for conversation, anybody? Yes, sir.
Mike Peterson, 287-324 473rd Avenue. On the quarter mile thing, I kind of agree with her. Even if they only, whatever, 200 animal units, nobody wants to be 300 feet from, I mean, a quarter mile in the country isn't much. That really isn't that far. So I think it should be a quarter mile minimum. If they want to have fewer units, they're not going to, people, I mean, to be a good neighbor, you don't want to be getting closer than a quarter mile from anybody. The second thing I wanted to say is, I think we need to go with the state's, the way they describe a CAFO as anything is basically if the ground is changed, if there's a pile of silage, if it's a barn for calves, whatever, it's all part of the CAFO, not just the main building and the manure ponds. That only makes sense. And I guess the third thing I'd add is the property line thing is fair, and I see where you're coming from with someone who's got a whole quarter of land. You know, that setback would be a whole different story. And then you go to the house right now. What if, say, if we just went 300 feet from the house? That would add 300 feet of people's yard that they can enjoy, and it would be it would be fair, I think, to everybody. So I just kind of propose that. What was my fourth thing? I think that's all I can remember.
What do you think of anything more? You're come up again?
All right, yeah, there was 4 things, but I'll think of it.
Yeah. Well, we're here. We're here all night. Hi.
Hi, good evening. I'm Joyce Tevet. I'm the one with the bad handwriting. I apologize for that. But anyway, that's
Tell me,
my
I thought we-
strong point.
We should know this ahead of time now.
Okay. Yes, I'm a member of Lands Lutheran Church, and which is Mo Parish Park area. And that church has been there for 154 years as of this summer. And we also have an adjacent park called Mo Parish Park that was established in the 40s. So it's been there for quite a few years. And as it was mentioned in my letter that I wrote, we have a CAFO just a scotch over a mile away across the field. And with these new proposed rules, this will double that just right off the bat. And then also, just to let you know, that there's a fence line between that feedlot that's about a mile from the church, and that has additional cattle. That's a cattle operation. And so that would increase as well. And then all they need to do is build another fence and then put up another CAFO. And you can see how this is going to be up to 15,000, 20,000 cattle in a pretty short order. So what we need to do, I'm coming with a recommendation. Okay, I'm looking at the ordinance. Under section 3, under minimum separation distances, I don't know for the public that's here, if you can find that. Toby, I don't know if you want to put that up on the screen, if that would be helpful for people.
It's just starting on the bottom there, yeah.
I think I can just scroll it down.
Oh, that'd be great.
Whoop, let me skip there. That part there.
Okay. Okay. You know, it'd be better just to have the picture. Let's just go with the picture. Yeah. Okay. So for those of you who don't have this, here is the ordinance that's proposed. And it's under section 3 and under the setback chart. Get that a little straight. Here is the recommendation that I think we need to do. Back in November 17th of 97. For some reason, it got changed. It used to be 1.5 miles from churches, and Toby can contest to that. Correct me if that date is wrong, but. I wasn't here. But sounds right. For some reason, it got changed from the 1.5 miles. It used to be from churches. So this isn't anything new. We need to go back to that, and I recommend we do 2 miles. Right now, it's designated county or state parks, so this would include our Newton Hills, our beautiful Newton Hills. They could put up a CAFO 1.5 miles from Newton Hills. We don't want that. So what I'd like to see is designated county or state parks, including church parks. And for any of you, I invite you to come out to Mo Parish Park. It's very large. It's not your typical backyard of a church. This is a huge park. We have a brand-new youth center building that was put up last year. That was about $120,000. We have a prayer garden. We have an annual 4th of July event that we invite the entire community to. And we have, of course, our large church. We have the cemetery across the street. This could be really concerning for our church community if there all of a sudden becomes this huge amount of cattle just a mile away. And I mean, we have church services. I'm inviting you to come 8:30 on Sunday mornings out at our prayer garden. If it rains, it's at our youth center. We need to get this changed. And this isn't anything new. This was in place back a number of years ago, and we need to go back to it. And I think we should go to 2 miles. And we need to eliminate the 0.5 for the 999 and under. I mean, for those of you that go to a church, do you want to have one of these, that close to your church? Even if it's a small unit? On the right day, I mean, that's not a good thing. You got the prevailing winds, and let's say you have a funeral service going on or something of the sort. So it's not just, I'm not just talking Mo Parish Park here. I'm speaking for all churches. But ours is unique. We do have a park associated with ours, and if there's something that needs to be to make it a designated for the county, I'm certainly willing to do that paperwork that would put it in that category. So that's my recommendation. Any questions?
I'm kind of excited to go to your church now. It sounds great.
You are more than welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Donuts too.
Donuts? All right.
Thank you.
No big sheds though, Jerry, so.
Hi.
Hi, Dion Erickson, 47341 288th Street, Beersford. And I just have a couple thoughts. A buffer for dwelling areas, not just your home door. A lot of people have extended patios. They have a separate building for entertaining people. There's a lot of different things that occur in the last 10 years that used to be. People have man caves and all these other things. So creating a dwelling buffer to add on, like Mark said, 300 extra feet to encompass additional dwelling areas. If you've got a nice setup, 200 feet away from your home with a nice picnic area and stuff. So I think taking into consideration how many people have dwelling areas, not just inside their home. Looking at what that looks like. I'm kind of with the rest of the crew where I do like how the minimum setbacks are now for the lower class, just kind of keeping that bottom half where it's at. I feel like that kind of helps with the odor footprint and traffic, things like that. So the other thing, a cap size, like even on larger CAFOs, like a cap size of like 5,000. so that they can't just continue to add and add and add and add and add, like we've seen them do in the past. So talking about what does that look like? I just threw a number out, 5,000, but I think putting a cap on it would be something that we should look at. The thing that concerned me, I saw on the news when one of the dairies had the straight line winds, and it was just miles of steel all over. How will that affect my property depending on how close they are to me? Is that taken into consideration as part of EMS? Like, who's cleaning up, and how am I gonna be covered and protected from their steel flying a mile away, or, so I don't know if that's something that you guys have taken into consideration, is damage. We're getting a lot more straight line winds. This isn't a new thing. It's happened to them back to back 2 years in a row. So it's maybe worth a discussion to see how would that affect, like who's responsible, or, like if a CAFO does go through and all their steel is wrapped around my property and my house, and, do I just have to hire someone and pay it myself to clean it up, or is it their insurance? Like, is that talked about at all, or?
That one I'd refer to, you guys, as this an insurance
Farm
issue?
liability policy will cover it, so.
So you're just
So then
regular
that
ag?
would not be an issue if,
We can't regulate people's.
I'm just saying, like, for the distance wise is what I was getting at, kind of like with the minimum setbacks the way they are. I feel like that probably would cover the distance of the steel flying, It probably isn't gonna go 5 miles, but the current minimum setbacks, I feel, may help cover that. So,
Okay.
that's all I had.
Thanks, Stan.
Harold Flight, 48339, 289th Street, Fairview. The last few meetings, we've been talking about trying to keep the young farmers in the area. Now we're trying to eliminate, or basically regulate them out of business, the way I see it. First of all, have you seen the pile of turkey stew and a pile of cow stew? What's going to be the biggest? 44,000 turkeys is probably not any bigger than 1,000 head of cattle. Take that into consideration. This last, talking about the CAFO next to the church, it's not gonna happen because they have to get a conditional use permit. They can bring the whole church and fill this room 4 times over if they want to shut it down. So that's a non-starter also, the way I see it. Earlier, we were talking about housing eligibilities. Probably a little late on that deal, but by the same token, in the past meetings, it's been talking, and it was brought up tonight again, some young farmer selling off a housing eligibility to finance a feedlot or a piece of concrete or building, whatever. It's not gonna happen either, because what you're gonna have is you're gonna have all these investors coming in, buying a piece of ground, selling off the housing eligibilities, if at all possible, no matter where they go. And the young farmer's gonna take $500,000 to buy the piece of ground. He's gonna have to pay another, thoughts I heard in the last several meetings, $750,000 for building eligibility. So he's already at 1.25 million to ever get started. He hasn't built anything, and he hasn't bought any equipment yet. So I think this housing eligibility is whatever. You guys can do what you want, but I think that's also part of this scenario here. And I think it has to be the residents versus the property line, because the last time I talked about it, residents, property line, you can be almost 3/4 of a mile away, maybe even a mile away, and that's totally changing all setbacks. Talking about this damage from the dairy. I seen a few pictures too, but if you lived in town right next to a shop or pole shed of any kind, you're liable to have the exact same damage. It just happened to be that it was right there. So that's also should not be a factor in what's decided here. Another thing is, the definitive, I didn't agree with Clinton on too many things, but the definition of what is makes a lot of difference. Is 200 head a small unit? Is 1,000 head a small unit? Is 500 head a small unit, or 5,000 head a small unit? Just some information for you. Last time it's been talking about some custom and ways to make this work. A custom feeder, if you can get the permit first of all, or if you change too much, it's gonna need a permit just to feed 500 head. The yardage is gonna come up to about $175 a day, and if he's got 90% capacity, that's gonna give him $57,575 yearly income. That's not enough. So that, if you wanna consider that a large farm, that's a small income farm. Today's incomes.
And you said 500 head?
500 head.
Example?
Yes. It's gonna generate approximately $175 a day, and if you got 90% capacity, say 329 days, times 175 is $57,575 yearly income. Out of that has to come utilities, fuel, feeding equipment, expense, repairs, family living, real estate taxes, real estate payments, interest payments, improvements, update equipment. The guy needs a second job, even at 500 head. Okay, and then you go to 1,000 head, $999, whatever. Take that times, if you own the cattle. Common figure to shoot for is $100 a head, it's $100,000. At 1,000 head, you can barely do it yourself, so you're most likely gonna hire somebody. He's probably gonna get somewhere between 30 and 50,000 just for working for you. So all of a sudden you're down there, back to $50,000 also, along with all the other expenses plus more. Because everything comes out of your pocket when you own it. That's most of what I got to say for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will you come up again later if you find some more?
Chad Baldwin, 46743 287th Street. I like the idea of finding a good number so everybody's playing across the playing field. But I have a job, but I tinker with feeding some sheep with my 12-year-old daughter. She completely enjoys what we do. It's more than a hobby. I would love to try to keep her going where we live, and I don't want her to be handcuffed with some of these numbers. I want her to have the option to keep going. It's hard for these smaller guys to keep going because the contracts that they have to get with pigs or whatever, they have to have a certain number. I was talking to my neighbor here a while back because I had looked into a hog barn. And of course, he wasn't in favor of it. But when we talked about it, I said, could you find me 10 neighbors that would raise 200 hogs apiece so I could end up having a contract to fill? Good luck with that. I'm 50-some years old. Growing up as a kid, we worked for every farmer around. We castrated pigs, we threw straw bales. I mean, that's where we come from. I hear them talk about, too close to a church and stuff. I get that. But what would the forefathers think? Because that church wasn't built on a bunch of people from Canton that went down there and started building it. It was built by farmers in agriculture with all these small churches around. My grandmother was a country school teacher. I mean, that's the way the world works. We need to keep the small ag if we can. And it's like I said, it's tough. It's not very cost effective, let alone just to try to buy a piece of land to, say, 4 acres to build a hog barn on. It's not going to happen with what's going on with the high dollars. It's these guys buying a quarter, they pull the eligibility off, turn around and sell that so they can knock down the price of their acres. I get it. It's an open business. It's all about an open market. But it's tough to try to keep the small people trying. And like I said, I try to do this for my daughter. I mean, trust me, I'm far from physically fit. So when I go home at night, doing chores is the least thing I want to do. But my daughter completely enjoys it, and I want her to have an opportunity to do that. And it's try to keep cost effective, and like when he was given numbers, it's crazy when you try to get out there and keep these young ones going. But I guess that's all I got to say. Sorry. Thanks.
Thank you, Chad.
Hi, Sarah Stever from Lennox. I think our conversation tonight is a perfect microcosm of what's going to be happening in our county. We've got the northern part of the county, very, very different from the southern part of the county. We've got challenges around any one of the cities. We've got a lot of high-dollar acreages that are out there, people who did not grow up on a farm. And as I've said 100 times, I do want us to figure out a way to bring kids back to the farm, to have more farmers here, just more farmers, period. So this is going to be a real challenge. And I appreciate the fact that the 1.32 does make a fair number. It seems like that, and maybe I'm a livestock snob, okay, so don't be offended anybody, but putting up confinement barns seems like a bigger investment than just starting a small feedlot. And it's probably your numbers would be, you would know exactly what that investment would be like. But somehow we have to find a balance between what's happening in our county, because if our farming community loses their social license, and by that I mean, right now, farmers are some of the most honored people left. Like, there's a whole bunch of people that don't rank very well, but farmers still rank up there. People believe farmers are doing their best. And are trying to improve the soil and trying to improve the way they raise animals. People believe that now, and thanks to our animal organizations for pushing that message forward and giving farmers who are only 2% of our population or 1.5% of our population some visibility so they can tell their story. But that doesn't mean that we don't have situations where we've got so many animals in one spot that it just overwhelms the environment. And I came back from the Wakanda tractor pull on Saturday, and drove up 17 past the dairy barns that are there, and it was an absolute overwhelming smell. And it's not right up against that road by any means, and I'm sure that's a challenge for those neighbors. That's going to become, and I say overwhelmed, and I grew up on a farm, and we have cattle, and that really doesn't bother me, smell of money. But it does bother a lot of people. And if we can't figure out a way to have some sort of a buffer somehow that protects our farmers, even though it feels like the numbers are never going to work out no matter what we do, I am genuinely concerned that we'll lose our social license and that farming will become even more difficult just because northern part of Lincoln County is so different from the southern part of Lincoln County. So I don't have a recommendation of any specificity on anything, but just please keep that in mind, that that's the challenge I see that we're up against. So thank you.
Dwayne Carlson, 292-874-67. Thank you, Sarah. That's what we need to echo. We need to support our local farmers. Those tax dollars from our local farmers continue to circulate in our communities. What we need to look at is these large CAFOs are investor-owned, and those dollars go away from our area. They are not circulated into our local communities. Our school systems, our medical systems, everything is directly affected by that. We need to keep that in mind and support our local farms when we're making these decisions. Put that at the forefront. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. All right, commissioners, or anybody else, any thoughts, talks?
Mr. Chair?
I have lots. Seth? Yes.
Like what is, so I know like we have, per like the new guidelines, you have the two broken out, right? You have basically under 1,000 and you have over 1,000. So like the under 1,000, then there's talks about like setbacks, there's talk about like a waiver process, like, so like a waiver process without a CUP, what do you do in that regard? Does anyone know how that process works?
You want me to explain it?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair? So the waiver is, let's say the required setback for the operation you want to build is 1,320 feet. But it's gonna be 700 feet from my house. Well, then you come to me and I sign a waiver that says that's fine, you can go ahead and build it even though you don't meet the setback. And the waiver is currently and would be in this, an option to use for the applicant from top to bottom. So it doesn't have anything to do whether it's permitted or it's conditional use.
You know, it worked the same as if it was a father-son starting right next door, or good friends, neighbors, yeah, anything like that.
I think, it's kind of an issue with some of these small, there's some of these small guys, I mean, there's a lot of people who really aren't in the room. And, I mean, they don't want to come here and, they probably just wouldn't build an operation. They wouldn't build a CAFO because they'd rather not come in front of a bunch of crowd of people and, deal with that headache. I mean, I get that. I mean, I can't see my dad wanting to do that, and so there's a lot of good people who they probably, like money's tight, like, I don't know, I'm very connected to agriculture, and if you're just corn and soybeans, that's really hard to make a living right now. I know corn and soybeans don't smell, but like, I don't know, those guys, like, they're either gonna be here or they're gonna be gone, and there's that future family that has kids that go to your church, that go to your school, and then you wonder why these small towns go away. It's not a mystery, people. So, I don't know, my heart goes out to the people that aren't here tonight, who don't wanna deal with that stuff, don't wanna have a bunch of people, having, like, being in a fishbowl, being like, oh, what are they gonna do on their property and whatnot, and I think the big fear that everyone has is like, it seems like the extreme, right? No one wants to be next to, looking at the numbers, I mean, yeah, 6,000, 5,000, I get that, like, yeah, these huge operations, but I guess right now that's the status quo. We have no small farmers doing livestock, and we have a few really big ones. So that's the status quo. I'd rather it be, a bunch of smaller operations and not these big ones. So I don't know. I mean, if the issue is huge operations, and maybe a cap would make sense. I don't know. But I don't know, I don't want to make it harder for small guys trying to keep going.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so to build off that, and thanks Commissioner Mosier, because I agree. And I'll give you guys, like a statistic in the Canton area. So in 1994, I graduated from Canton, with roughly 3 kids, somewhere in there. Over 50% of those kids came from operations, production ag operations. My daughter graduated, 3 years ago, 2022, one generation later from Canton. She had 76 or 7 kids in her class. And only 2 of her and 1 other kid came from families of production agriculture, and the other kid was from Iowa. So it just tells you how things have changed in one generation in this area. And so what that's left is it's left this vacuum of out of county, out of area farmers that are operating. I actually went through the two townships that I own land in Highland and Norway. Just go through a plat book and just marked if it was farmed by somebody local or somebody from out of county. And it's about 60% of the land is operated by somebody out of county, which is, that's alarming too. I mean, and I see it every day, so I don't think other people understand that. And so what happens is that the barrier of entry into agriculture, into row crop agriculture, is extremely high. One, if you want to buy the land, it's too expensive. Two, it's really hard to get your hands on a whole bunch of rented ground. And if you do, that's expensive as well. The machinery's expensive, so on and so forth. So the barrier of entry to animal agriculture is low. It's hard, but not as hard to get started in animal agriculture. You need less acres. The banks, these operations cash flow fairly well. Banks are willing to borrow you money to purchase land that does not cash flow. I'll tell you right now, a payment on a piece of land right now is probably, depending on what you're paying for, it's going to be $700 to $850 an acre. So if you figure $300 cash rent would be an average, you're having to fund that $500 to $600 out of your pocket somehow. Hard to do for a young producer. When I look around, we have exported the majority of our farm kids in southern Lincoln County for sure, most of Lincoln County. The ones we have left, if we want to keep them here and we want to keep them engaged, and when I say engaged, I mean they're here, they're operating, they're on our church councils, they're on our school boards, their kids go to our schools, they sit on boards like this, they buy stuff in our towns. They're gonna have to have access to animal ag, plain and simple. And if they don't, if the decision is that we're gonna regulate them like we have been, over-regulate them and make it hard for a small operation to exist so they can stay here in our community and be part of it, that's a decision we can make, and they'll leave. I was blessed to have some of my best friends in the world home this weekend. There were 6, 7 of them that flew in and helped me celebrate my birthday. Every one of them a high-level individual, great families. I really wish they would have stayed here. But the opportunity wasn't there in 1994 and 5 for those kids, and so they've dispersed across the country, and I'm the only one left here. I hope that isn't what the message that we continue to send to the few youth that we do have left here. I understand too, obviously the large operations. Well, I can tell you that if we don't give the small operations like the Floyds over there, or the Renleys have been here and talked, Trevor Johnson, I see Mike Lyson sitting back there, Chad Baldwin. If we don't give them and their kids some opportunity, that's the only thing that's gonna fill the void. And that's what's happened. When we overregulated livestock, in my opinion, in 1995, and I can tell you, I've been in this business my whole entire life. I think that there probably isn't anybody in this room that has as much experience seeing it as I have. I've had the luxury of not only seeing it here, but across the whole state of South Dakota, most of Nebraska, most of Iowa, most of Minnesota. And so I can tell you that the lack of livestock is why, when we look back at it 30 years now, that is why we have had this vacuum of people gone. And, I was baptized at Lance Church. My family, both sides of my family were founding members of Lance Church. I can remember when you would walk into Lance Church on a Sunday morning and there was 150 people there, and they had to have 2 services, one there and one at Rumstall and Trinity. And the unfortunate part is now there's 1 service between the 3, That wouldn't have happened if the 7 guys that I hung out with this weekend would have stayed around and we'd have found a path for the other 20-some, if we'd have found a path for 20 or 30 more people from 1994 to stay, and 1995, and 1996, and 97. And we can sit here and we can say, you know, let's just put handcuffs on all this, make it hard. That's fine. But I can tell you what's gonna happen. We're gonna continue down this path. We're gonna have very few local farmers left, less than we already have. Out-of-county operators, large operators, are gonna continue to operate our land. Or we can make a decision that the few people that we have left, that we're gonna give them an opportunity to succeed. And that's the choice we have. So, that's my passion. That's where I come from. And when I look at the way we currently do it, and we hold somebody, you know, like the Floyds or Josh Larson or whoever, to a higher standard and tell them that, hey, your operation, you need to have a higher setback than this operation. Or you need to be 87 miles from a church. You know, there isn't anybody in this room either that, or I would say that if there's anybody in this room that has a bigger heart and a bigger passion for rural congregations, I think I'd be right at the top. I also know that if I went back and I looked at my grandpa, my great-uncle Harvey, and my great-grandpa, and I looked at the amount of money that they give to their rural congregations and the percentage of that came from raising cattle, it would be just about 100%. So, those are the decisions we have. We can leave it the same. We can make it tougher. Or we can say, hey, let's give the few young people left, or not even young people, just the people that are involved in ag, in this county a chance, you know? And maybe recruit some new ones would be a novel idea, you know? There are people from maybe adjoining counties that if the opportunities were there would come here. I challenge you all to go to what we looked at earlier. Go look at the Beacon browser and take a $24.99 hog building and see what they pay for taxes. Divide that by the acre. I've done it, so I'll tell you what the math is. Bare farm ground, we send about $4.50 an acre to the county in taxes, okay? Two, I won't name names, but two $24.99 hog buildings down here. If you divide what they send to the county and you divide it by the acres, it's about $350 to $400 an acre. So you look at it from that standpoint too. If we do absolutely nothing at all, we you know, it's not a path to generate any more money. So I guess that's kind of my bit on it. I'm somewhat frustrated that that this barrier of entry to livestock production in Lincoln County has been so hard for 30 years.
Mike Peterson, 28732 473rd Avenue. Well, let's look at it another way. Lincoln County is the fastest growing, one of the top 10 fastest growing counties in the nation, right? How many, in the last five years, we'll say, 5-10 years, how many acreages have been built in South Lincoln County, south of 18? 50 to 100? How many CAFOs have been put in that time? what does a $500,000 house to $1 million house pay in taxes versus 2,500 pig CAFO? I mean, you gotta look at it both ways. Lincoln County's moving this way, or Sioux Falls is moving this way, Harrisburg's getting bigger. I'm really sorry that, I mean,
No, that's a great
both
point,
my
Mr.
families
Peterson.
came from farms.
Yeah, and
So
that's
I've been around farms my whole life too.
And that's a great point, because one that I wanted to bring up, actually. You know, the difference between livestock and people is that livestock don't require any county services. The sheriff's department, they don't kill people, they don't do drugs.
Well,
They don't-
but people spend their
they don't
money
get-
inside the county too.
They don't get,
Pigs don't spend any money.
yeah, well, the county doesn't have a sales tax, so it really doesn't matter. If you look at it from a county standpoint, the only thing that really matters is the generation of property tax currently. The other thing is you just 100% solidified my point. We have no regulation on building houses. And so what we've told the people of this county is build freely, right? We've over-regulated, in my opinion, that's just my opinion, livestock, and we don't hardly have any, okay? And so you are 1,000% right. That has been the path, that is the choice that we made in 1995, is that we wanted to trade off livestock production for unhandcuffed
Well,
house
what's
building.
killing Lincoln County is, like you said, 60% of it's owned out of county, Iowa. I mean, that's where it's owned. That's what's killing it. It isn't, these kids, their parents grew up on the farm, they retire, the kids probably sell the land if they don't want to farm. And that's what happens, and then it gets bought from out of state.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's killing it as much as anything else. You know?
And I think Mr. Floyd would agree with me, that you've got a much better chance at paying for a piece of land, if you've got livestock to feed the crop to and cover the cost. Those numbers that I gave you, and I would be happy to show anybody, that on a straight row crop, you won't cash flow purchasing a farm for $15,000 an acre. There is a path with a livestock operation where you can make the payments.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll start with the last comments. The reason guys from Iowa are coming over here because of the livestock that's allowed over there. They've got the money. So they're gonna come and buy the land, they're gonna rent the ground, they might have to haul the feed for 30 miles, but who's profiting from that? It's only them. Okay, you wanna try and keep the guys that are here, you gotta have a minimum of like 500 head, like a lower number I talked about, to get truckloads of feed trucked in, and you gotta have that many head to use it up before it spoils. I'm not talking silage or earlings that comes out of their field, but I'm talking all the byproducts, which come from the ethanol plants and stuff like that, which are supporting other farmers. A lot of byproducts get used in cattle operations nowadays. And another thing, some people I haven't heard here yet, but some people try and tell you maybe we will send they brought ethanol up. But they say that this corn should be used to feed people. This corn is well used. First of all, it's putting fuel in your tank, and most of what the byproduct is getting fed through cattle or hogs, maybe chickens too. I'm not involved in that at all. But the percentage of, I don't know what you would call it, unusable byproduct maybe would be the word to use, in the corn that goes to the ethanol plant is considerably less than when they started 20, 30 years ago. It's very high percentage used now. I know exact figures, I'm sure that can be found out, but a lot of the byproducts from the ethanol plant, a lot of them come to my place and a lot of other farmers in the area. It's up to you. If you want to farm the ground, feed your own corn, that's fine. But you can buy ethanol byproducts cheaper than what you can raise your own corn. That's another way that the livestock people can make it work versus having to buy the ground, rent the ground, whatever, and make the bottom line work. Thank you. Sorry I didn't state my name, but I think you know who I am now.
So obviously, I don't want to cut anybody off. I want everyone to talk, but I also want to keep us productive too. There's both sides. Lincoln County is 100% both sides. Even the city of Sioux Falls where I work, the largest economic development or factor in the city of Sioux Falls economy is ag. Whether it's, corn, beef, whatever it is, that the biggest driver for the city of Sioux Falls, the largest city in the state, is still ag. So that drives all of our small towns, our big towns, our churches, it drives everything. One thing I've been trying to figure out for a long time now is how to help the small farmers get their start. Economically, financially and all that. So this is something that's really going to take a lot of work and a lot of time. We're obviously not going to get it done tonight, but I'm going to encourage everyone to come back next month and let's bring some ideas. Let's bring some numbers that seems to work great, and then we'll start dissecting it from there. I can't remember who said it. I could make up a name, but say Winston Churchill. But I don't know. Someone that's really smart. He said, when you walk away from negotiation and both sides are unhappy, you have a good negotiation. So you're never going to have one side 100% happy. So I think we should try to find that middle ground. But yeah, 100%, my feelings are we have to make the small farms be able to survive and to start up. Because whether you're starting a car wash or a feedlot or whatever, entrepreneur, you will have to give someone the opportunity to do what they want to do with their resources.
So, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I think one of the things that was in my notes here was the broad brush of 1320 being the minimum. I guess just so we have discussion for next week, or week. We don't have to do this weekly. Next month. If you look at that chart, 660, or at 500 animal units is 660, 499, roughly. That's an eighth of a mile. How about we start there? With a 660 minimum.
660 mil, okay.
And discuss from there. So, if we're gonna leave it at, 200 would be 660, 499 would be 660, and then we'd start our increment going up from there.
That's because we have a starting point and we'll talk
So
from
we
there.
have something to discuss. What's everybody else's thoughts?
I think it's a good place to start.
Yeah, I would agree. Good place to start. We've got a lot to digest here tonight, and obviously, my grandparents farmed back in southwest Minnesota, and things have changed, but I bet I don't know where that's at, but that 60% is kind of an eye-opener of land in Lincoln County is farmed by somebody outside of Lincoln County. That's a little bit of an eye-opener.
That's where the big corporations come from. That's where.
It isn't even them. We just don't have, we just exported all our operators,
Yep.
It's too bad. Marlene sees it.
Yep.
It's no different in Lynn Township.
It's not.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dion Erickson, 47341, 288th. I think we can all be in agreement, the thing that we are trying to protect is a huge out-of-state conglomerate coming in and just ruining our land. I mean, I think that is the one goal and the one solution we should work at. So the bottom number, and yes, bringing small ag back is definitely what we should be doing. But we should also, at the same time, address the bigger issue that's new in our area, are the out-of-state CAFOs coming in, trying to, squeeze in here and there and take over whatever portion they want, lease the land, get contracts to buy it if they get the CUP through, all the stuff. So I think, in addition to what you guys are saying on the bottom end, I think our goal, everybody's goal coming here together and driving this from the beginning is to eliminate a huge out-of-state company coming in and ruining our land and opportunities for the small farmer. So it's just my recommendation, we go at the solution approach as well and try to address that big issue that why we all came together to start with.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that other angle together. Yeah, thank you.
Dana Knutson, 46526 291st Street. I'd just like to add to that I'm all for I guess I would rather have 20 smaller, range farmers than one large CAFO. So I'd like to just readdress for something for you to think about, anything that takes a CUP for the larger ones. I think, unless you have something with some teeth in it, where we have someone to go out and inspect that once a year or twice a year to police that, because there is no oversight on that to make sure they are abiding by all the rules and they actually only have that many head. And then possibly, put in forth some fines with that if they're not abiding by it. That has not been addressed for years since, especially, I don't think we have so much of the problem with the smaller ones, but anything that takes a CUP for the larger ones, I think someone needs to be addressing that and inspecting it to make sure they're following and abiding by all the rules. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, what is our inspection process? Is that a state process, or how does that work there?
So the county's policy for that is, it's complaint-based. So we receive a complaint. What I would say, though, on the conditional use permits, though, is that we are proactive. We do reviews on an annual basis. But as Commissioner Scott will point out, is that a lot of those early ones just didn't have any conditions on them. So we're only enforcing the conditions that are approved with the permit. And a lot of those early ones just had no conditions on them. So we still go through the process of reviewing them, but there's really no compliance with it. What's important, though, is from a county perspective, is that to preserve tax dollars, we are complaint-based, which is Sioux Falls, which is Minnehaha County, which is all of those ones. But we rely really on getting those complaints, because at that stage, it becomes a criminal or a civil matter in the county. And so we have to make sure that when I have to go to court and explain kind of what the process is, what we're doing, is that people don't realize that I'm on trial, not the person that we're going after. So we have to make sure that we have policies and procedures in place to do that. So we do have procedures in place, and I would say very similar to what Minnehaha County and City of Sioux Falls do. We're a step above that, though, is we do some proactive reviews of these permits. But again, I'm limited to what the conditions that this board puts on those conditions with it. And the other thing is, compliance is not an easy task. If anyone's raised a teenager, you know what we're dealing with out there. I've only, in all the years I've been doing this, I've only had one time where somebody said, "You got me." Is that I'm in the wrong here with this, And there's always something there, but again, it's our duty, though, when we're approving these permits, to make sure that we are looking at the operator, to make sure we're looking at all of the aspects of it. And as staff, we do that. I mean, we do as much research as we can. But when it gets to this stage, we also have to make sure that the boards, that they're taking the time to look at good operators, bad operators, and those different types of things. But with that is, I don't think there's a need for further compliance review parts of it. What we do need to do is make sure that in the conditions that we have in place, that they're appropriate for what the issues are that we have. And I always say this, and I know it's not meant to be a joke, but we're very well aware of what it takes to run a storage unit in the county. We have more storage units in the county than any county in the state of South Dakota. I think when we approve those, we have very good conditions. We have ability to go after it. But what I would say too is that a lot of people say, well, we should be inspecting these every day and looking at these things. That's the teeth though, is that when we do have a violation, there is teeth to that, whatever that condition stipulation is. So are we out there 24 hours a day? No, it's impossible. Don't have the staff to do it. But when we do have issues out there, do we address and take care of it? Yes. Is it behind the scenes? Do people see it? No. I've had compliance cases with board members. I mean, we don't go and advertise those types of things. We follow the law, we follow the procedures that we need to take to do that. So I think we do it right. It's just, is it to the level that I think? Yeah, I mean, if we had more staff, I think we could do more provisional with it. But I think what it is right now, it's acceptable with the process that we have in place. But I guess if there are any questions on that, I'll gladly answer any questions on it.
I think that's a really good point, Toby. I think I don't know about amazed is the right word, but I think that it's something that we have to continue to talk about because it appears that there's some confusion about that because it continues to come up, right? The difference between maybe a permit that was, I don't know. All I can speak to is the permits that have been in front of me since I've been on the board, and I think it's 3. Pretty sure it's just 3. And each one of those, I remember you putting a condition with the cap because past ones were just approved for Class A, 2,000 head, unlimited, right? You could do what you wanted to. And so I think sometimes people look back at maybe some of those that were passed without these added conditions, and that puts fear in them that, well, that's how it's going to be handled in the future. So you really have to split CAFO applications into 2 buckets, in my opinion, like prior to, how long have I been on here? 6 years? 4, 5?
I've lost track.
Well, I'm about off, so that'll be good. Like prior to 2020, let's say, okay? And then after 2020, because the ones after 2020, the ones I can recollect, they have a different condition to them that caps them. And if somebody wants to put more animal units, they have to just start over. They can't just add to it. And they can't come in and just say, well, I want another conditional use permit for 1,000 more head. No, you gotta start from the whole thing, right? So then, prior to 2020, how I understand it is a lot of them, they just came in and applied for a Class A. They might have said, well, we're gonna have 4,000 head, but that was never in the or 4,000 animal units, but that was never in the condition. So now that it's maybe 10,000, they're not out of compliance because there was never a cap put on by the commission. So again, those of you that understand it, awesome. Those of you that have questions, maybe don't and have questions, ask any of us, ask Toby, we'd sure explain it to you. But I do think that, at least as long as I'm on the commission, that blind spot has been noticed and has been corrected and will continue to be. And I would assume that staff will continue to recommend that we're applying for this number and that's what you're getting. And that's one of the things that takes, in the current situation that we have this gray area. If you go back and if you were here, go back and listen to what our presentation was, is with a Class A, we don't have that minimum and maximum, right? Like we do on all the other classes. If we go to just a setback per foot of animal unit, the application's gonna cap itself based on what they're applying for.
Yep.
We won't have to add a condition for a cap, because it'll be for that much.
And I'll add to what you were talking about too, is that 2 things that you'll hear me say a lot is that words matter. And so a lot of the old days was, we would have a lot of public comment. They would talk about a condition, but it never got conveyed in the written condition. So for instance, a popular one was always like road haul agreements with the townships. A lot of it says if there's a road haul agreement, it needs to be filed with the county. There was never any of them that ever said there had to be road haul agreements with the townships. And I think, that's why I say words matter. We need to make sure that we have the right wording and the conditions that we want to put in there with that aspect of it too. And then the other part about this is that, and it's protected by the Constitution of the United States, it's protected by the state of South Dakota and the local ordinances, that I don't have the authority to really go and do much other than I gotta go through court. So if we do have true violations and things like that, it takes a long time. I mean, we have to go to court just like anybody else and go through that process. So compliance takes a long time, but I'll say this, we have more than I can count current compliance cases right now. We were able to resolve all of those through voluntary compliance, meaning they complied with it. We didn't have to get court orders to remove property, to take things away, to close down operations. So I think that's a good testament of what Lincoln County residents are. I don't think it's anything that we do. We try to work with people to make sure that, a lot of people don't remember 10 years ago there was a conditional use permit they have these conditions on. We work with people to do that. But yeah, it takes time. It takes effort to do that stuff. But I think, again, getting back to it is moving forward, the more we can make the regulations black and white at the front end stage, and then we don't have to go through that process, it'll work better for everyone. Make it cleaner for everyone. So again, black and white regulations is better than none, so. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Toby.
All right, with that, Mr. Brown, for next meeting, will you put on the agenda again another working session for this, please? And we'll start working on those setbacks, those conditions. Yeah, like I said, there's no hurry to run this through and just get it passed. We just want to do it the right way and do the best we all can. With everyone's help. Yeah, sure, come on, Dwayne.
Dwayne Carlson, 292-87467. I got a question about the AUs. When somebody is going to apply for them, especially in the large cattle feed operations, it doesn't really affect the dairy because it seems like the dairy's got one classification there. But when we're looking at the weights, that could change significantly. You've got a finishing feeding operation, let's say. They're going to look for an AU for the lowest amount, not the finished amount. And there's a big difference in that cow and how much material that's going to leave behind. How are you going to address that?
So I'll just tell you, Dwayne, the ones that I've been involved in were cattle, and they were, in the application, they were all finishing cattle. So
Okay.
that's how they were figured.
All right, so they're going at the highest rate then?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for clarifying. Thanks, guys. All right, commissioners, are we okay to move on that one to the next subject?
Yep.
All right.
Have a next subject.
Next subject is, Mr. Brown has a briefing.
He's brief.
I think we got a
We're all good? All right.
adjournment.
Well, with that, then, I was going to do this at the beginning, but I want to thank our new Commissioner Representative Herman Otten for spending his first night with us on a really good subject. So,
Yes, thank you for sticking my feet to the fire on the first one.
yeah, it's not intended, but Toby said we're following the rules, just following the rules. Commissioners, again, thank you for everything. This board was really good, just keep an open mind and working with everyone, so I appreciate that. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second, Scott.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.